This is how you add an advanced filter to your Wix repeater or your Wix Studio repeater. Now, right over here, we have a search bar that allows you to search for basically any title of the book that you're looking for. Let's look for Grandpa. Now, that keyword is going to pull up one of the titles we have here, which is Grandpa's Beard is Alive. Now, you can go ahead and clear that right up, and the search is going to be reset. And here you can go ahead and also filter by the category of the book you're looking for, and you can also further refine your search by looking for the exact author of the book. Maybe you have a favorite author right here, then you can also go ahead and refine by a particular author. Now here is an activity, and you can go over here and clear all of the filters that you have. And one of the fun things I like about this is the ability to sort by date. So you can sort by the oldest item that was added to the collection or the newest item that was added to the collection. Now this was the last item I added, so it's the latest, and that's why it goes from new to old. And this is the first item I added, and that's why it went from old to new. Here I'm going to show you exactly how to add this feature and also how to add this count item. So this allows you to count the number of books you have, and when you scroll down right here, you can see that we have several book activities. And you can always use the navigation bar to switch between the activities if you're manually just trying to scroll or just trying to look for an item by yourself or feed your eye with the activities. But of course, if you're trying to make it super easy for your site visitors to find exactly what they're looking for, then having a search like this is very, very important. Now, I'm sure you might have noticed there is a preloader just right there that kind of shows up when the filter is going on. Now, in cases where your site user's internet isn't that great and you're trying to search for an item and it's not pulling up on time, the preloader will keep showing up until this filter is completed. And I'm going to show you the step-by-step method that I use to accomplish this, including showing you the design journey. Now, I know you are really excited to join me in this tutorial, but before we jump right into our editor, if you haven't subscribed yet, please don't forget to click on that subscribe button, or you can click on this button here when you get there. Well, I don't know what it is, but you can definitely find that out yourself. And you can check out the link to this particular demo on the description below. So let's just get started. Now, the first thing I want to do is to add my elements, and here on the header, I want to increase that just a little bit. Head over to add elements and head over to strip. I'm going to add a strip to my header, and this is because I'm trying to achieve this particular layer that I have here. So over here on the header, I'm going to go ahead and reduce the height just a little bit, something like that. And I'm going to go over to this stretched icon right here, click on that, and I'm going to head over to the margin, and I'm just going to reduce the margin to around 40 pixels. Then I'm going to head over to the shape divider. So I'm going to select the bottom part because I'm trying to add this particular divider feature right there. So scroll down until you get to the part where your shape divider is. So I'm using pixels for this, so click on pixel, go to customize, and just reduce the height, just the amount of height that you're looking for. I think that is perfect for me. Now head over to the design, go over to the corners, and here you can go ahead and add a corner radius to it. As you can see, we have this rounded edge, so we're going to make that around 20 pixels. And once you're done, head over to change background. So I'm going to go to the image, and I'm going to select an image. Now I have already generated all the images that I need for this tutorial, so here is the background that I need for my strip. So go over and add that. Now head over to the settings. Now over here we have the color behind image. I'm going to bring that to a gradient. So I'm going to select gradients, and over here on the gradient, I'm going to select the first option here. I'm going to change the first color to black. I'm going to change the second color to a blue color. So right over here, let's use that one, and then go ahead and close that. Then our image opacity, I'm going to set it to 40%. Now you can see we have about the same kind of background right there. So I'm going to add a text over the strip. So go over to add elements. Now go over to text mask. Now here is where you add your text. Now I'm going to change this text and say subscribe hamsters. Now you can see that we have a little bit of glitch here, but no problem on that. Now we're going to click on the gradients and click on this color right here. I'm going to change the first color over here to white, and I'm going to change this direction to 50 degrees. And I'm also going to drag this really close to the other one and drag this to the very end. So I'm going to change this color to this, I think this is an orange, I'm not sure, but that's looking just the way I want it to. So let's go ahead and close this, head over to the text. Now I have a font called Press Start. You can go ahead and install that font and add it to your Wix website. And once that is installed, I'm going to change the capitalization to uppercase. Now we're going to head over to the apply shadow. Now this is completely optional. You don't have to make use of any of this. Now turning on my apply shadow is just exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that as it is. Now I'm going to change the height of this to 215, and the header as well I'm going to change to 215. And that's exactly what I want it to be. So click on your text, head over to the toolbar here, and we're going to align this to the center and to the middle of our strip. Now we're done with the header part, and the next part is to start adding our search elements. Now we have a text input here for our search bar, so let's go ahead and add that. Now when you head over to your add element, we're looking for an option called the input. Now you might not see this input option if you are using the site for the very first time without turning on your dev mode. So you want to turn on your dev mode. Now we're going to come to the code pretty soon, but right now we're going to head back to our add elements. So head back to your add elements, and once your dev mode is turned on, you should be able to see your input option. Now head over to the text input, then drag and drop your text input onto your website. Now click on design, and this is where it allows you to completely customize your design. I'm going to go ahead and customize this design and make the background white. Then over here I'm going to remove the border and set it to none. Now the corner radius should be set to 10 pixels. And then we're going to add a shadow, so click on that to add a shadow, and I'm going to change this color to DB. Now that is going to add a very nice background to it. I'm going to leave this as default. Now I'm going to head over to the hover as well, and here I'm going to change the hover background to white. I'm also going to remove the border for this hover effect. I'm going to go over to the focus, and the focus as well is going to be removed. So I don't want anything, any design at all, but you can of course customize it to exactly how you want it to look like. For the arrow and for the disabled mode, we won't be needing that, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that. So let's head back to our text, and this is where we choose our placeholder text. So the color, I'm going to change it to the C7 color there, and the input I'm going to leave it at black, so that's the text that you see when you begin to type. And I'm going to go ahead and change the font to Fig Tree. Now I downloaded the font called Fig Tree, and you can also do the same and download it from Google. It's a free font, so you can totally make use of that. Now go ahead and close that right there and head over to the settings, and this is where we change the placeholder text to say search. And you can also go ahead over here and remove the validation from required. We don't need this to be required. That's going to throw an error when the user does not enter anything. Now you can see that this is looking the same way this item here is looking, but let's go ahead and just align that to the left. Now we're going to head over to add elements, go over to decoratives, go over to icons, and here you can choose a glass icon and search for the magnifying glass icon. So we have here a magnifying glass, so I'm just going to go over to the app icons, add search to the keyword. Now go ahead and add this search or magnifying glass icon to your website. So let's just reduce the size just very little right there. Drag this just right on top of your element, of your input element. Now you can see the magnifying glass is just right on top of our placeholder text. So click on your input element, head over to layout. Now we have the input and placeholder indent. Just going to increase that a little bit right there, so that they begin to search just right from this point moving forward. Now you can go ahead and stretch that across. And our next element is a drop down element for the sort by date. So let's go ahead and just get our drop down element. Now scroll all the way down to the input again. Now over the selections, we're going to go over to drop down. Now drag and drop any of these drop down elements and then go ahead and apply exactly the same settings that you have here onto these elements. All right, so here is the drop down element, and I've designed these elements and even went further to add the choices. So go over to the choices over here. Now you can see that I have a choice option for new and then the arrow old, new to old. And over here on the value as well, this is the most important part of this drop down because this is the value that we're going to be using in our code. So the same thing goes with the old to new. So this has to be the same value that you're going to be using in your code. So you can also go ahead and configure the settings. The field title, I added sorts by dates. I didn't add that for the input element, but you can add that if you want to. And I also unchecked the autocomplete because I don't want them to search the drop down options. Now I use the custom drop down list type. So you can go over to the design, go to customize, and just freely go over all these settings to see how you can make best use of it for your brand. So you want to design these elements just to match your brand on your website, not to confuse the users. All right, so the next element to add is our category list. So go ahead and click on your drop down for the sorts by dates and then go ahead and duplicate that. So you can click on that and then head over to duplicate right here. Now drag that and just bring it next to this element. Now here we're going to go ahead and change the field title to say category with a colon right there, and then we're going to change the show initial text. We're going to change that from the placeholder and call that select category. Great. And over here we're going to turn on the autocomplete because we want them to be able to search the category. Over here you can see that I can actually search for items within my drop down, and that makes it extremely easy to search for any category I'm looking for. And then most important thing that I want to show you here is we're going to go ahead and delete these options from our drop down, and the reason for this is because we're going to populate our drop down with values from our collection. So that is looking all great. And the next element is a selection tag. So head over to add elements, go over to the inputs, and here is the selection tag. So drag and drop any of these designs onto your website. All right, so here is my selection tags. I've gone ahead to design it according to the brand of my website. And here on the choices, I went ahead to remove all the other options except for this one. So what I'm going to do here is change this to say loading. And the reason for this is because when your page loads, it's going to show that custom or default option. So let's refresh our page. You can see that showed comedy just right before the items populated from our collection. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this value to say loading. So when the page loads, it's going to show loading before it populates the elements. Now the next thing we're going to add is a clear filter button. So go ahead and add a button with an icon. So go to button, and here you can go to a themed button. So they are called themed buttons. So go ahead and drag and drop that to your editor. Now because I already have a design, so I just easily brought that in from my design. So go ahead and click on settings, and this is where you change the text. And you can also replace the icon by clicking on this replace icon here. You can upload an icon for the X button to clear, or you can search for an icon to add an icon just right next to it. You can head over to the layout to decide if you want the icon to come last and the text first. I'm going to add the alignment within the element. So mine, I'm going to add it to the icon to the left and also center my elements. So next we have the text counter. So this is a text element that helps us to count how many items are currently being displayed on our repeater. So go ahead and click on text, and you can choose any of these text elements here. So let's just go ahead and choose that one and go over to edit text. Now again, I used the font called Press Start, and I'm going to change the font to 22, and the default text should say no books found. So when the page loads, it should say no books found. So let's just reduce that to like 15. I think that's looking better. All right, so the next part of this tutorial is adding our repeater elements. So let's drag this down and just give a little space for our repeater. So head over to add elements. Now head over to list, and here we have the repeaters. So the repeaters basically allows you to use the same design to show different data. So over here we have exactly the same design for all our items. The only difference is the data that is displayed on them. So you can see we have different images, we have different texts for the category, for the author, and for the text, for the title over here, and we have the button which is just looking the same for the entire thing. So head over to this section, drag and drop any of these repeater elements. But for me, I already have a repeater, which is the design that I had earlier right over here. So you can definitely just add a repeater and then add an image on top of there and add a button or a themed button. You can also add another button element to show the author's name and the text to show the author's name. And over here, I added a click me button. So we're going to come back to this pretty soon. I'm going to show you how to connect the data to your collection, because we are saving the data that are currently being displayed on here onto a collection. So I'm going to show you how to do that pretty soon. And if you're enjoying this tutorial so far, please hit the subscribe button and let's continue. Now the next part of this tutorial is the pagination bar. So we're going to go over to add elements, and then we're going to head over to the interactive. So here over the interactive, head over to the pagination bar and then drag and drop any of these paginations here. And again, you want to customize this to match your theme. Now this is how my pagination bar looks like, and here we are on the main part of this tutorial. So we're about to start connecting our repeater to a collection. Now with your dev mode turned on, head over to the databases, and here we have a database called the Whimsy and Words. So go ahead and click on this icon to open up your collection. Now this is where I have stored all the data that we're going to be searching for from our front end. As you can see over here, we have the title, the author, the category, and the image. Now I have a full tutorial on understanding your content management system, and that tutorial shows you the step-by-step method to set up a collection like this and adding content to it. So you can check that tutorial out if you don't already know how to save data to a collection and displaying them on a repeater. But just to make this tutorial really quick and head to the very important part, which is showing you how to configure the search and filter features. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly brisk through what this is all about. So I have the title right over here, which is a text type. Here is also a text type for the author and the category, and we have the images. All right, so what I want to do is allow the user to be able to search the title, author, and the category fields from the front end. Now, since I already have a collection, all I have to do is to go ahead and close that. So head over to the repeater, click on this connect to CMS. Now, if you don't have a data set yet, it's going to prompt you to add one. And here is how to create a data set. You're going to choose the collection that you want to connect to, and then for me it's called Whimsy and Words. So go ahead and click that, then click on create. Now once you have created your data set, then this is going to pop up for you. I'm going to head over to choose a data set here. I'm going to choose my Whimsy and Words. Now this will load sys per load. Now head over to the image, and here when you hover on that, you can see that the image over here is highlighted, showing that that's the element you're about to connect. So I'm going to connect that to the image field on my collection. Now the alt text, which is the alternative text, if the image doesn't load, I want to connect the text that shows to title, and the tooltip, I'm going to connect that to the title as well. I'm going to head back to repeater connections, and I have a button here which shows the Monster Mayhem. Now I'm going to connect the label of this to the category. All right, so that's going to change all the labels to the category they represent. Now let's go ahead and click on the next button here, which is the author. So go ahead and select the author, and that is going to replace all the text or the label of the buttons with the author. And then the next is the title. So go ahead and click on the text over here and change or connect that to the title for your items. Right over here, you can see we have this icon. I'm going to go ahead and change that icon by clicking on settings, then replace icon. Now over here, you can see we have author here. You can go ahead and use any of these icons. For me, I'm going to use the open book. So go ahead and add that to your page. And as you can see, that has added an icon to that particular button element. All right, so let's head down to where we have the pagination bar. So click on your pagination and click on connect to CMS. Now click on choose a data set, and the data set is whimsy and words. As you can see, that has automatically configured that. Now let's click on our data set settings. What I did was to show 6 items at a time. So if you head over to this page, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items showing at a time. Now on the page 2 as well, we have 6 items showing up at a time. And on the last page, we have 3 items because in total we have 15 books. All right, so you can change yours to anything else that you want. If you want it to be 12 or 100, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so for this, we are done with the front end, and the next part of this tutorial is the coding. Let's go ahead and expand or maximize our code panel. And the very first library we need to import is our Wix data. So go ahead and import Wix data from Wix data. All right, so just after our already function right here, just go down, and here we're going to add a function for the search, and that is the function that is responsible for allowing us to combine all these searches together and allows us to show the preloader, and also calls this search function when we need it. So let's head back here, and I'm going to just add a comment right here that says search filter function. All right, so this function name is going to be called search, just as simple as that. And inside of this function, we're going to add some declarations, and I'm just going to add a comment for these declarations. And the declarations are going to be the variable that we're going to reuse multiple times. So the very first one is filter. So I'm going to call the variable name filter, and that is from the Wix data filter method. And the next one that we're going to need as well is the sort. As you saw earlier, we're able to sort by the date. So we're going to add the sort there, Wix data.sort. And another thing also that we need is to create a variable that holds the value for our input element. So before we get to those points, let's quickly go over to our elements and just begin to change their IDs so it's easy to know exactly what elements we're working with. So for the search bar, we're going to change the ID right over here. We're going to change that to search bar. And the next one is our sort drop down. All right, and then we have the category as well. So let's go ahead and call that the category drop down. Great. And then we have the author. So we're going to go ahead and call these the authors. And then we have the clear button here, so we're going to call that the clear filter. We also have this text element that helps us to count the number of items that are currently showing on our repeater. So let's go ahead and give it a name, and I'm going to call that count books. There's one element that we didn't add yet, and that is the preloader. Now right here you can see we have a preloader that loads each time you perform a search or a filter, and that you can get from this website called loading.io. Now they have free preloaders that you can make use of. These 2 rows here are all free, so you can basically choose any of the ones that you want and click on this color here to change the color to what you want. You can make it a transparent background. You can also play around with these properties here, like increasing the speed or even increasing the size of it. And when you're done, click on the GIF, and this is what you use to download your preloader. All right, so when you're done, go ahead and click on free download. Now you need to create an account to actually be able to download that. So once you've downloaded your preloader, you're going to go over to add elements, head over to image, and then go ahead and upload your image. Now I already uploaded my preloader, and here it is. So go ahead and add that to your page, and just resize that just to the right size that you are comfortable with, and then drag that element just right where you want it to be. Now it doesn't have to be specifically here, but one of the most important things is keep that selected and open up your code. And again, here is the properties panel for your code, so you can always toggle that on and off if you want to see the properties. And I'm going to change this name or the ID to say preloader. And again, I'm going to hide this by default. And the reason is because when the page loads, it needs to be hidden and should only show when the filter is performing, and it should only hide after the search or filter is done. All right, so now we have named all our elements, and now we can continue on with our code. The next variable that we're going to have here is called the search item. So we're going to call this search item, and this is going to hold the value of our search bar. Now our search bar is this element right here. So we can copy this particular ID, and we're going to use the Wix selector to select the value for our search bar. So here I'm going to go ahead and type in search bar, or you can just easily paste that and just say dot value, and that is exactly what we want. Now we're going to do the same thing for the category. So go ahead and say let category equal to. Now what I can do here is just simply copy this part and paste it there, and easily just change that to category. And the next part is also going to be called the author's name. Now I can just paste that part as well and just change the ID to authors. Okay, I think that's an error there, because I'm sure you probably saw that I added 2 O's to the authors instead of 1. So let's just go ahead and remove that. And here should be an error. So let's remove the other O. All right, so we have other variables, 3 more variables that we're going to add here. And the variables are conditional variables. So what they do is they check if the user has started to type in or they started to use the filter. So if the user has started to use the category or the authors or the search bar, then we're going to listen for that and perform our filter. All right, so for the first one is going to say has search item, and that is going to check if the search item right here dot length, or the value of our input element, is greater than 0. So if there's at least one value here, then that is greater than 0, then we need to start searching. All right, so the next one is for has author name. We're going to go ahead and take this author's name dot length is greater than 0. So if the user has selected at least one item from these selection tags, then we need to start performing or checking for the filter or search. Then finally we have the has category. So let's go ahead and also check that. So category dot length, sorry, not length of, but length is greater than 0. All right, so these are conditional variables that should return true or false, and if they return true, then we need to perform certain actions. Now this is where we come to the next part, which is for the search bar. So we're going to take this one item at a time. So I'm just going to give this a name and say search bar filter, and this search bar here checks multiple fields. So what this means here is that we're using the search bar to search for the title of the book, the category of the book, and also the author. So let's go ahead and search for the author, Bob Bubbles. First of all, let's just clear all of that and search for Bob Bubbles. Now you can see we have 4 books by Bob. So over here you can see that we're able to search by the author, and we can also search by the categories. So let's look for Monster Mayhem. Monster Mayhem. Great. So we have Monster Mayhem categories all selected right here. So that means that our search bar currently searches multiple fields at a time, and this is going to look different from the rest. So let's go ahead and use a conditional statement to check if has search item is true, then we're going to perform an action. Now the first thing we're going to do here is if it is true and the user has selected or has begun to type in their options, then we're going to show this preloader. So go ahead and select the preloader, copy the ID, and over here we're going to go ahead and show the preloader. So go ahead and use the Wix selector and then show method. All right, so the next part of this section here is we're going to create a new variable called a search filter, and the search filter is going to hold the returned object for our Wix data.filter. So we're going to go ahead and create another Wix data.filter here, which is a new method, and if you remember, we already have it right here, which is the filter Wix data.filter. We're creating one specifically for the search bar because of the fact that we're going to be combining or searching for multiple fields. So once that is done, we're going to use the contains method to search for the field in our collection that we're trying to match with the value that the user has typed into the input elements. So whatever the user adds here, we're going to search for it in our collection on that specific field. Now to find that field, let's head over to databases, and over here in my collection we're looking for the title. So whatever the user searches or types into our text input, which is over here the search item, then we're going to look for it in the title field, and then we're going to use the or method to say that or anything they type into the search input, we're going to also search for it somewhere else. So again, let's use the Wix data.filter, and then we're going to also use the .contains, basically replicating what we did earlier, and the field we're looking for right here is called the author. All right, so just go ahead and use and add the author field key or field ID, And again, we are looking for the search item. All right, so we're going to go ahead and again do the same thing we just did here. So we're going to say .or Wix data.filter, and we're going to also use the contains method. And again, we're looking for a field key or a field ID to map. So over here, let's go to category, copy the ID for the category field in your collection. And again, we're using the search item or any value that the user typed in. Great. So we're going to then reassign all that was gotten here, which is the search filter, back to our filter right here, and use that later on with our data set. So basically going to say that the filter is equal to filter, and just use the AND method to reassign the filtered object. So let's go ahead and add the new search filter. And that is all we need to do for the search input. All right, so we're going to head over to the categories. We're going to set the category filter so it works. So I'm just going to add a comment, and I'm going to say category filter. All right. And I'm going to add another condition here to check. So if has category, then we're also going to go ahead and show the preloader. So whatever the user is doing, we want to show the preloader. And again, we're going to go ahead and use the filter and reassign the value of our filter to the new filtered object. All right, so filter is equal to filter, and we're going to use the Wix data.filter, and then we're going to also use .contains. All right, and for the case of our category, we're also going to head back to our databases, head over to Whimsy and Words, and copy the field ID for category. So paste that right there, and the field that we are matching with is the category drop down. So we already have a variable for that, which is called category. So just copy the category and paste it right here. Now that is all looking good for the category, and that is exactly what we need to use for the category drop down. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the author. So let's go ahead and just add author name filter. So basically we're going to replicate exactly what we have here, so or maybe almost exactly. So let's go ahead and also use the if has author's name. Then we're going to go ahead and just copy this, show the preloader, and here we're also going to go ahead and reassign the new filtered object to our existing filter. So and Wix data.filter. So we're going to use the has sum instead of .contains, and the reason why we're using the has sum method is because the selection tags is actually an array. So what happens is anytime you click or select any of these, it's going to be added into an array, and we want to filter by any of the array items that the user selects. So that's the reason why we are still able to select or filter by all the items right here. Okay, so I'm able to select basically all the authors, and it still shows that up. And you can see the more I deselect, it reduces the filters. Okay, and the field that we're using for this is the authors. So head back to your collection, and here the author's name. We've copied the field ID, paste it right there, and the element that we are searching against is called the author's name. All right, so paste that right there, and that is done for the authors. Now another thing that we added here is the ability to sort by date. So we're going to go over to the next line and just add a sort filter. So let me just add here sort filter. All right, so we're going to be using the switch method for this. I think it's easier for this particular kind of filter, and what we need to do here is the key we are using is going to be the filter. I think we haven't changed that yet. Okay, we have. All right, so we have the sort drop down. We're going to add the ID and say dot value, and over here in the value we're going to be checking what value we are matching against, and the first value we're going to be using here, let's head back to the choices, is the new to old. So go ahead and select the value and edit the value and copy the value. Now we're going to be using the value for our code, so go ahead and paste that right there. So when we have selected the new to old option from our drop down, then we're going to use the sort method and then reassign it to the sort dot descending. So that means that we are going from the newest item to the oldest item, and then we're going to add the field key or the field ID of the date that the item was created. So let's head back to our collection, and this time we're going to open up our collection, and there is a hidden field that we haven't seen yet. Over here we can see the title, author, category, and image, but there is a field that Wix doesn't show you, and these are system fields. So you have to toggle them on over here to let them show. and this is the field we're going to be using to filter or sort our date by. Okay, so go ahead and click on created dates and go over to edit, and this is the field ID. Go ahead and copy that, and we're going to bring that back to our code and paste that right in there. Okay, so that is all we need to do for the new to old, and we're going to add another case. So let me just copy this right here and then paste it over here. So I'm going to change this to say old and this to say new, and I'm going to change this to say ascending. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I already know that the value for the new to old is just new to old, just transformed. All right, so let's head over to this part, and we can also get rid of the defaults. So let's get rid of that. And now we are here on the part where the entire filter is put together. So I'm just going to add another comment here: apply filters with datasets. All right, so let's go ahead and select our data sets. To find the ID of your data set, click on that repeater you connected using a data set. Click on connected to CMS. Now go over to the data set settings, and the data set ID is your data set ID over here. So copy that quickly and come back to your page, and here you can see that since it's selected, it shows data set 1. Now paste that right there, and we're going to be using the dataset set filter method to then set the filter. Since we've been assigning all the filter objects, we're now going to add that back into our dataset, and then we're going to use the .then method and say that after the filter has been applied, we are going to also apply the sort. So we're going to use the dataset.setSort method and then sort our item. Then after we have sorted, we want to count our item. Now we have not created the count function yet, and so this is going to be give an error, but I'm going to add that pretty soon in the next part of this tutorial. And then once we are done with counting, we're going to go ahead and click on this preloader, and over here copy the ID and just paste that right in your code and hide. All right, so once the entire filter and sort has been completed, then we're going to go ahead and hide the preloader and also count our items. Okay, so we're getting somewhere, and the next part here is to create a function, and this is going to be called the count item filter function, and we're going to call this function count, and that's going to solve the error that we had over here. So I'm going to create a variable called count, and I'm going to assign that to our dataset dot get total counts, and then we're going to say on the next line that if the count that we have gotten, you can see that as a number. So if the count is greater than 0, then we want to change the text that is being displayed on our count item elements, which is right here. So no books here. We're going to click on that and copy the ID of our count text elements. So paste that right there. We're going to change the text, and the text is going to say, we're going to use the template literal to get the actual total count. So I'm just going to return the count. Now I'm going to say book, but just right here, I'm going to add another template here, and I want to check if the number of books that we've gotten is equal to 1 or greater than 1. So if the total count that we got is equal to 1, then I just want to have an empty string. That means it should just say book. If not, if it is more than 1, then I want to add an S to the back of the books. Right, and just right here I'm going to say found. Great, so that is all we need to do here. And then next, I'm also going to do something here, and that is I want to expand the pagination bar, because in most cases the pagination bar still shows up when no item is found. So I want to expand that if the item is greater than 0. Else, if it is not greater than 0, then I want to just do the opposite of what we have here. First of all, I'm just going to copy this pagination bar here and just say collapse. And next, I'm going to also change what the text here says. So just copy the text. I'm going to just copy that and say no books found. Or you can say no items found, just depends on you. And over here, let's just quickly take a look. I'm just going to type in anything here. As you can see, it says no books found, and the pagination bar is hidden. So that's exactly the kind of interactivity that I want. All right, so once we're done, we're going to go ahead and return the count. Great, so now we're done with basically our filter, and I want to add another part of this tutorial. I've already taught this before, so I'm not going to do much about that, and that is populating our input elements. Now over here, we're able to populate this category drop down from our collection, and also populated the author selection tab from our collection. So I have a tutorial for that. I'm just going to paste the code that I used right here, so you can totally check out the tutorial on how to populate any of your input elements. And right over here, this is the only thing you need to change, and this is the collection ID. So head over to databases, and here on your collection, hover on that and copy your collection ID. Now once you're done, come over here and just simply paste that. All right, so we're going to use that later on, but we need to add another function. This is the last function, and here is called the clear filter function. So whenever we click on this clear filter, it's kind of changes everything. It clears what we have here. It resets this to new to old. It removes every selection from a category. It also deselects the author, refreshes the repeater, basically just cleans up the entire thing. So this function is super helpful. So let's just go ahead and begin to create a function. We're going to call this clear filters function, and then we're going to go ahead and do something very simple here, and that is the data set. So we're going to use the data set filter again, and in this case we're going to be using it in a whole different way, and we're going to say Wix data.filter, but in this case we're not going to be adding any parameters or .contains or any of those objects. So this is just going to refresh our data set. So once our data set has been refreshed, we're going to use the .dem method and count. So we're going to count again how many items has been returned. That's why when I filter here, you can see we have 3 books, but when I click on the clear filter, the total number resets to the original. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. And then the next line is where we're going to clear all the input values we have on our element. So the first element is of course going to be our search bar. So copy the ID for our search bar. I'm just going to make this firstly for the search bar. So go ahead and say value is equal to undefined. All right, so that's going to clear everything we have on our search bar. But we also want to clear the category and the author. So let's just go ahead and copy this ID. And just right next to the search bar, we are also going to select our category drop down. So this is how you select multiple items in Velo. So let's go ahead and click on the authors, and here we're also going to add the authors and clear all of them together. Now the only one we have not cleared is the drop down here, and just before we continue on, I actually selected the item from drop down, which is going to be the show initial text. So this is going to filter from new to old, and that is the default selection or sort from my data set. So click on this connected to data sets, CMS, click on data set settings. Scroll down till you get to the sorts, and as you can see by default it's new to old items that is sorted when you view your repeater, and that is the reason why I selected the new to old. So what I'm going to do in my code right here, so I'm going to select my sort drop down, and I'm going to set the selected index to be equal to 0. Now drop down is also like an array, so the first item starts from 0, the next item is 1, and the other one is 2, and so on. So I want to select 0, which of course is the first item, which is right here. Yours could be here, so you can just say 1 and then 2 and 3 and so on if you want to select based on the index, but the first one always starts with 0. All right, so now when we clear the filters, we also want to hide the preloader. So let's just go ahead and just say hide. All right, so now we are done with all the functions, basically all the machines that we need to get this functional, and we are here on the already function where we're about to start piecing things together and making them work. So let's just get rid of all these comments we have here, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to populate our elements, and we're going to add in our data sets already function to make sure that all the elements load when the data set is ready. Okay, so just right inside of this data set, we're going to go ahead and call this function right here. So just copy this. This is a template function, so just paste that right there. So of course we have errors because we need to get the field ID of the element we want to populate. The first element we want to populate is the category dropdown. So go ahead and expand that, and then we're going to head over to databases, go to here, go to the Whimsy words collection, the category, copy the field ID, and here we're just going to delete that, add our quotes, and then the next part is to copy the ID of the element. So this is going to be the category dropdown, so add a hash right there and we're going to duplicate that for the authors. So let's go ahead. First of all, replace the ID of the authors, and in the databases, we're going to go ahead and copy the field ID of the authors, paste it right there. Now let's go ahead and publish and actually view these live sites that we're working on. All right, so here let's refresh that. All right, so you can see here that we've been able to populate the category. We've also been able to populate the authors. Okay, so that means that this is working. And the next thing we want to do is over here you can see that we have 0 books found. So we need to call the count function here, and this is going to count the number of items that are currently being displayed on our repeater. So let's just publish this and quickly view how it looks like on the website. So we're just going to go through all we've done step by step. Okay, so let's refresh that. Great. So you can see here that we have the total count. So that is working fine. And the next thing we need to do is to add a call function for the search. Let's say trigger search function with filter elements. So our filter elements are, of course, the category, the author, and the sort. So let's just go ahead and begin to call in our multiple elements. So the first one is going to be the category, and then we're just going to say that on change. So when we begin to change or select our items, then we're going to go ahead and call the the search function. Sorry. So we're going to call the search function. So we're going to also do the multiple selection for our elements. So let's go ahead and select the author. I'm going to come over here, add a comma, a hash, and then the authors. We're also going to do the same thing for the sorts. So when we begin to select the sorts, we are of course also going to call the search function. All right, so that is looking good. Now let's just publish and take a look at this functionality we just added for just the filter elements, not the search bar. So let's refresh. All right, so that's loading, and that has loaded. Now let's go ahead and search for the first one, which is bathroom bloopers. Now you can see that over here we have the bathroom bloopers all showing for the 4 items that we currently have. Now let's use the sorts to sort by old to new. So we're expecting this to be the first and this to be the last. So let's just go ahead and say old to new. Now you can see that the pizza who wanted a hug is the first, and don't let the hamsters boss, or don't let the hamsters drive the bus. All right, so let's go ahead and clear. You can see that we can't clear the filter here because we haven't gotten to that part. So we're going to get to the part for the search bar pretty soon. And if you know you're enjoying this tutorial so far, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. So I'm going to go ahead and select the search bar, and I'm going to add a special property, which is the on key press property. And this property is basically going to help us to listen for when the user has stopped typing. And just at the top here, I'm going to add the comment just to make it easier to know what we're working with. So this is going to be the search bar filter. Now I'm going to use a variable called the debounce timer. And the reason is because we want to listen for a new search just to make sure that the search function does not run every single time that the user clicks or searches for an item. And that usually leads to performance issues or even too much query. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to set a debounce timer, but if there's a debounce timer active, then we're going to go ahead and clear the timeout, and we're going to set the debounce timer to undefined. Now in the next line, if it's not, then we're going to go ahead and set a new timeout, and this timeout here is going to run for every 200 milliseconds. Now you can make yours to be faster than that. Let's just use asynchronous here just to make sure that this works smoothly, and we're going to use the await search. So that's going to help us perform this search function properly. Without this, the function might lag and you may not be getting the best results. So this is going to help us make sure that we are getting the best result possible. So let's just save, preview, and check how this looks like. All right, so you can see this is showing loading because I just refreshed my page, and because of the internet lag, it takes a while for all of this to come together. Once the page loads, you can see that everything is back to normal. Now let's test out our search bar just to make sure that it's working. I'm going to look for a story called The Diary of a Sleepy Potato, and you can see that that is working exactly how we want it to work. And when I go ahead and clear all of that out, you can see my search is reset, and I can also go ahead and search with my category drop down and also combine further with the authors. Now because I don't have any item with the Monster Mayhem for DJ Mustar, that doesn't actually work for anything else except for bubbles, which is a combined search or more refined search for these two elements. All right, so we have one more thing to do, and that is to make the clear filter functional. So let's go ahead and add it right here. So here I'm going to go ahead and say clear filter trigger, and I'm going to go ahead and select my clear filter element, and then go ahead and add an on-click listener to that. And here we're going to call the clear filter function, and that should be good to go. So let's go ahead and just preview for the last time and take a final look at the beautiful advanced repeater, filter, and search that we have. All right, so look at the beautiful layout that we have with a functional search and filter that we've added to our Wix websites. And when we go ahead and filter, we can click on the filter, clear filter, and that resets our filter. Now you can search for basically anything on your collection and you're going to find the answer. Now I know that you're following me to the very end of this tutorial, but I'm going to show you one more thing that is going to make this perfect, and that is adding a scroll to the top when we click on or change our repeater. Now you can see that we constantly just stay on the bottom part of this page instead of scrolling to the top so we can see from the top. Now to add that, we're going to head back to our edit and we're going to go to add elements. Now go over to menu and anchors and go over to anchors. Now here you're going to drag this anchor to the point of your page where you want the element to scroll to when they begin to change or select your pagination. Now I think this is the perfect place for it to be. Now once you're done, you're going to scroll down to your pagination and click on your pagination bar. Then over here we're going to change the name to just pagination without the one, and just right here we're going to add a comment and say pagination scroll to top. So we're going to add an on-change event to our pagination. So when the user actually clicks on to change or select the pagination, then we're going to go ahead and select our anchor. So click on the anchor and we have the anchor here. So let's remove the one and just have it as an anchor. Now let's use the Wix selector to select the anchor, and over here we're going to add the method to scroll to the top. So we're going to scroll to the top of the anchor or where the anchor currently is. So let's go ahead and publish and take a look at the masterpiece that we have added. All right, so right here we are on our page, and let's click on this. You can see that the user no longer has to stick to the bottom of your page when they navigate through your items. Now they can begin to view it from the very first item that is being displayed and scroll their way down, and I think this is the best user experience out there. So now you know how to add a repeater filter to your Wix and Wix Studio website. Now you want to check out my other tutorial on adding a scrolling text or a marquee text to your Wix and Wix Studio website, with a link on the description below and also at the top right of this tutorial. Now don't forget to subscribe to my channel for amazing videos like this. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next.